Welcome to Techstination. Joining us is Ted Fischer, the co-founder and CEO of a company called Ageless Innovation. Thanks for joining us, Ted.
Thanks so much for having me, Fred.
You've carved out a really interesting niche, but first let's talk about some background about Ageless Innovation, how this got started. You were born at a toy company, right?
That's correct. I was brought into Hasbro in the beginning of 2015 with the idea to lead this new innovation team focused with a mandate of leveraging Hasbro's many assets in new markets and new channels. And we quickly discovered that there was some unintended users of their products. We were focused on health and wellness as a new space for Hasbro. And we found that older adults were getting joy and companionship out of some products that were originally made for 4 to 8-year-old girls.
And these products, describe them for us, what the Hasbro had come out with.
Yeah, so they were animatronic toys that were really, for at that time the categories were 4 to 8-year-old girls was sort of a category. And we found that about 20% of the reviews were mom buying them for not for the 4 to 8-year-old daughter, but for an aging loved one. And then writing these incredible reviews about the impact they were having on their happiness and joy and getting this companionship that they were so needing. And that was the initial insight that we leaned into to launch the brand.
So tell us about departing from Hasbro with this technology and getting started with the company.
Yeah, so we actually launched the Joy for All brand at Hasbro in 2015. We ran it internally for 3 years with great support from the company. And what we found after running it for 3 years and growing pretty significantly is that as we got deeper into the health and wellness space and realized that we were having pretty significant positive impact on important areas like loneliness and isolation and Alzheimer's and dementia, we just realized, and the company realized, that we were moving further and further away from their core mission, which is obviously serving children and families. And we both thought that the best opportunity for the Joy for All brand to reach its potential would be to spin it out. So myself and 3 co-founders who were part of the original Joy for All team at Hasbro, in a very friendly management spin out, we left the company in 2018 and we started Ageless Innovation and then acquired all of the assets, the brand and the products in the Joy for All line. And now we run the Joy for All business as an independent company separate from Hasbro.
Under the Ageless Innovation Company. So tell me about the products that you have on the market today. And it's growing, I understand.
Yeah, we've been growing pretty significantly. We've actually expanded globally. In 2019, we started a company in the UK. We also started another company in Australia, serving Europe and the UK as well as Australia and Asia. As you know, most of the developed world has the same baby boomer phenomenon happening, where there's going to be more people over 65 for the first time in history in 2020 this year. There'll be more people over 65 in the world than under 5 years old. And so when we were really focused on this demographic, the idea was what can we do to further impact and bring joy and happiness? And so we started in 2015 with the original product, which is a Joy for All companion pet cat. In 2016, we launched the pup. In 2018, we launched a kitten, and we just announced last week that we have a new dog coming to the family named Freckles that'll be launched at the end of 2020. And we've got a couple of new innovations coming right behind that, and some of that will diversify away from just purely companion pets, but staying true to our mission to really, make positive change as we live and age together by unleashing the power of play. We just believe that the power of play has so much important meaning right now as this older population grows, and we know that the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, which was here well before the pandemic, has been spotlighted and highlighted by the pandemic. And so we're looking to bring more joy and happiness to older adults.
I mean, you must run into a lot of skepticism, people saying, come on, robotic pets helping older adults with isolation?
Yeah, so I was one of those skeptics back in 2015. So I truly get it, and I think the happiest that myself and any of my team members are when we meet a true skeptic, and they quickly see the interaction between our product and an older adult, and instantly do a 180. And so I actually invite the skepticism because I believe that it's unusual. We've sort of been category creators here, and I think part of category creation is this idea that it hasn't been done before, it doesn't seem normal, doesn't seem natural. But we now have hundreds of thousands of adoptions. We have thousands and thousands of really positive reviews, and so as opposed to myself or my team telling you how great we think the product is, we refer to those that are actually being impacted, and that's both the older adult that it's intended for, but also very much their caregivers and family members who are seeing great benefit in the interaction. And as opposed to replacing the human interaction, we found that these companions actually enhance the interaction. They make difficult situations easier. They improve the communication. They give caregivers and loved ones the time they need to get things done to help their older adults. So it's been an amazing process to watch some of the great doubters. Actually, Juliet Hope Klinger, who runs memory care for Brookdale, which is the largest senior living organization in the country, she was a real doubter when we met, and I don't think I hear anybody speaking more as an advocate for our product than her in the industry over the last couple of years.
For years before this, companion animals were being brought into nursing homes and other types of facilities to help. I guess there are real advantages to having them being electronic, but tell me what the experience is, what the differences might be.
So what we found, and there's a lot of research validating, one, that obviously pet therapy is very valuable and important in those type of community-based settings. The downside of some of that is that it's sort of on the pet's or the pet owner's schedule. So if you have Tuesday from 2 to 4, you're going to have pet therapy at the community. That's great, but what we found is the need sometimes happens at 6 p.m. On a Monday, and so our pets are there 24/7. You can use them at the times they're needed, as opposed to on some other schedule. And we find that sometimes cats or dogs don't necessarily want to sit and be in one place for long periods of time, and certainly our pets aren't real, but certainly we've created some really realistic features, but they're always willing to be there when you need them.
Tell me about the realistic features and the technology involved here.
Yeah, so what we tried to really focus on. So when we got into this space, Hasbro is some of the greatest creators and designers and engineers, but the company as a whole knew very little about the older adult population and what they needed and wanted. And so when we were designing these products, we went anyone who would let us in their living room, whether it was assisted living, memory care, independent living, whoever it might be. All we want to do is gather information. What is it you'd like to see? What features? And so things that I sat in meetings talking about things like paw pads and tapered whiskers, which I never in my career had thought I'd be in meetings talking about paw pads, but they were hugely important for the realism. And so what we heard from older adults is they wanted realism, they wanted affordability. The magic to me is that it's an interactive relationship. So you give something and you get something. So the pets have sensors throughout their bodies, and whether you're petting them or nuzzling them, the cats respond to sound and then changes in light, and the dogs respond to touch and to sound. And so, for instance, puppies, you talk to the puppy, and we have this technology called BarkBack. It'll sort of talk back to you in small puppy barks in the same sort of length as what you talk to it. The cat, one of the things that we heard from older adults is that there's a really tactile sensation when they purr. They actually vibrate. It's physical. And so we created a technology called VibraPurr, so that when our cats purr, they actually vibrate. So if it's sitting in your lap, you're getting that very familiar sensation of a cat purring. And so that's really what we we've tried to do, and we've tried to package it. We try not to talk about the technology that's in it as much as we do the impact of what the technology does, right? So, the interesting thing we heard over and over is that cats never do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. So our cat, is programmed completely random. So just because you're stroking a certain sensor on the back, you may get a meow or you may not. You may get a purr, or you may not. It may roll over or it may not. So it's different every time. Where the puppy's a little more predictable.
Just amazing. And you are hearing, from what I understand, some very heartwarming stories. This technology can be life-changing.
Yeah, it's truly been the most gratifying part of our whole experience. And the whole team, we spend time every week reading testimonials, letters, and reviews. Luckily mostly good, but we also read some of the ones that are less favorable, that are indicating, things that people would like to see improve, because, every day we're thinking about it. But for the most part, everybody sort of brings one that they read, whether it be on a retail site or a letter that we received, and we sort of sit around and we read them together. And it's really one of the most heartwarming. It never gets old, to hear that your loved one with dementia, who really was nonverbal, received the cat and immediately started talking to the cat, and it's the first words that they'd heard in a year or two from this older adult. I mean, we believe we have pretty simple technology, and so it's part of what I think is something that's overlooked, right? Is with all the technology and all the high tech, sometimes simplicity holds the innovation that people aren't expecting. And so I think the familiarity of what we've done in terms of it being a pet you're used to elicits memories. It does things that, when we first developed this, I'd love to tell you we were smart enough to think that, we'd have a dozen published research, clinically validated, peer-reviewed studies that talk about the impact of our product on those need states of loneliness and isolation and dementia and Alzheimer's. But I wouldn't have believed it if you had told me it, 5 or 6 years ago. And to watch that progression and to hear the stories of how it's impacted people's lives is the most special part of what we do.
And do they run on batteries, or are they rechargeable?
They do. They run on the 4C batteries that, again, as I mentioned earlier, the engineers and designers that have created these products are very smart. So if you're in a non-sort of interactive state, even if you don't turn the product off, it'll sit and go into a sleep mode that takes up almost no battery. And so they last an extraordinarily long time and very easily replaced.
Ted, I have to ask, we're in the midst of a pandemic. More people, young and old, are more isolated than ever. Tell me about the impact on your business.
Yeah, so we've been focused on what we've called the epidemic of loneliness and isolation well before the pandemic. I actually did a TED Talk last year on that topic, because we just, one of the undeniable facts that's come out is that, loneliness will kill more people over 65 over the next 30 years than heart attacks and cigarettes combined, which seems like almost unfathomable, right? And so, as the pandemic struck, I think if there's any, shining light as it relates to older adults, it's that it really has put an incredible spotlight on this epidemic of loneliness and isolation, because the protective measures put in place that are necessary to keep older adults safe also serve to further isolate them, which is an already isolated population. And so as the pandemic came in, our goal was to figure out how can we help as many older adults facing this social isolation. And we had done a pilot in the state of New York about a year ago, and Director Greg Olson there called me up at the beginning of this thing and said, Ted, I think it's time to deepen our partnership. And within a week, and I've had a couple of businesses in my past where, getting state partnership contract signed take a few days longer than a week usually. And they were highly motivated. We were highly motivated. So we created this public-private partnership to address the socially isolated, lonely older adults who were impacted by COVID and the things going on in the pandemic. And so in New York, they purchased, thousands of pets right at the beginning of this in March, April timeframe, and then distributed it to those that they knew were most impacted, most lonely or isolated. And then state of Florida, I'd spoken on a panel about 9 months ago with Secretary Prudhomme, and we connected, and he said, I'm gonna face the biggest social isolation, loneliness crisis in the state that we've ever seen, based on all, everybody now being, no family visitations, no peer-to-peer contact in these communities. And we signed a similar partnership with them, and the two of them started talking about it on these, national calls with their counterparts in other states. And now I think we've signed 11 state deals where we've created this public-private partnership in order to get our product in as many hands as needed out there to impact, isolated older adults.
Has the pandemic caused any problems with meeting demand, manufacturing?
It's a great question. So this is under the adage of better lucky than good. But as we've been watching carefully this whole idea of potential tariffs on different product categories, on products coming from Asia, and in an effort to get potentially ahead of what we thought was a pending tariff, we overstocked some inventory earlier last year, and figured we might be able to get ahead of it a little bit, and that turned out to be a real saving grace, as our supply chain early on, January, February, was impacted right around the Chinese New Year. And then, they came out of it very quickly, and we had stocked up, so we were in pretty good shape, and we've already, been well back in the process. And as I said earlier, have our new product coming out later this year. It's already manufactured, so we're in very good shape there.
Tell us a little more about what's to come.
So I think there's a couple of areas that we've, again, going back to our purpose, right, which is to sort of reimagine how we live and age through this power of play. And so we're looking at playful ways to keep important interactions happening, improve communication, make meaningful connections, those type of things. And of course, always we're trying to make it fun. And, one thing we talk about a lot is that, we work our whole lives to get to the place where we can play more, and we kind of get there and people kind of tell you you're too old to play. We deny that, as we think play is a basic human need. And so one area that we've worked on, we won a $1 million National Science Foundation grant with Brown University and their Humanities Center Robotics Initiative. And that 3-year study is looking at how we might add artificial intelligence to the platform in a meaningful and non-invasive way that it improves the user experience, and possibly can gather some meaningful information that could help loved ones, caregivers, or older adults. So that's one area that we've been focused on. The other is thinking about ways that we can expand the product line to again create both in-person and, now more important than ever, remote opportunities to interact and to find joy and play and fun together. So that's those are sort of the focus areas.
Are you talking about having possibly connected robotic pets?
Yeah, so that's what the grant that we won, the $1 million grant that we won from the National Science Foundation, is focused on that exploration, the connected, AI connected pet.
You mentioned before affordability as being important here. Tell us about pricing. Yeah,
so we've got great partners that we work with on the manufacturing side, and our sort of stated mandate collectively is to try and keep these products as they are today, as close to $100 as we possibly can. We see more and more social robots coming out in the $1,400 to $6,000 range, which I think is. I look at those as more of a one-to-many model, where it's bought more for maybe a group setting or facility setting or community setting, where we've tried to keep our product affordable as a one-to-one, because we've seen the great benefit of someone feeling like this is theirs, and they have possession, they have the need to take care of something and get that that sort of interaction. And so we've really we continue to work hard to keep these in that price range, so that can always be the case.
Where is it that people can go to buy, to get more information, and maybe to see some videos? Because that's the key here. You have to see it in action, right?
I agree. Yeah, we've done a lot of static, sort of pictorial, advertising and marketing, and it really doesn't tell the story until you see the video, which is so joyforall.com, which is our website, has lots of information about the team and the products, and obviously where you can find them. But we're available there. You can also buy on joyforall.com, but you can buy at Amazon, CVS, Best Buy, a number of other retailers, both here and outside the country.
Well, congratulations, Ted, on what you're doing there, really making a difference. Once again, the website is joyforall.com. Ted Fischer, thank you for taking the time with us.
Fred, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Now this. How many companies out there have continued to innovate when it comes to building a better radio? I'm Fred Fishkin, host of Techstination, and I'm here to tell you about the new CC Skywave SSB radio from the wonderful people at C. Crane. Bob and his crew really love radio, and it shows in this new compact model that is packed with features. Beyond great AM and FM reception and sound, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world, listen to ham radio operators, aviation, and more. It's the radio you'll turn to every day, and in emergencies. It will run for nearly 3 days on just 2 AA batteries. Pair the sleep timer with the new Soft Speaker 3, and you've got the perfect radio for your nightstand. Of course, it can wake you up too. Click on C-Crane at Techstination.com and put in the code Techstination for a free flashlight with your order. They love radio, and you'll love C-Crane.